So on today's vlog, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Let's start over. It's going to be more show and tell than it is show and tell out around on the cow farm, because the question for today that I really want to talk about is, how do you want to get around on your adventure? Backpacking, RV, recreational vehicle, travel trailer, tiny house, foot, I don't know. But we're going to talk a little bit about how mine started and how I got here as I'm in the horse trailer with the latest incarnation of life on the road. So I hadn't intended to do this, but I'm going to start with, it all began with I wanted to go backpacking across Europe. When I was 24, I took everything I could and put it in a little tiny backpack and went around Europe for about 3 months. And so what I learned after getting rid of everything I owned is that I got tired of being on the road and I wanted to come home, but I really liked the ability to be mobile. Fast forward 20 some odd years later, when I was going through a transition, I left my job, I wanted to start my own business, and then the economy imploded and houses went berserk. And so I made the decision that I would let the house go. It's like being in a bad relationship. Sometimes you just got to cut your losses and move on. So basically, I lost everything. I'm not exactly sure when the trailer idea came into place or into mind, but at some point I got the idea for a travel trailer. Now you've seen plenty of pictures of the little tiny travel trailer. It's a 1970 trailer. This is the 1970 brochure. Of course, that's not the best part. The best part is, I don't know if you can see this, the fabulous olive green decor, the super fabulous haircuts, the bouffant. That's what it looked like. This is the picture that inspired me to decorate it the way that I did. Now, I just happened to notice there's a cow on the picture in the back. I don't remember that, but who knew I'd be living with cows? Certainly not me. But I liked the browns and the turquoise, and so this was really the picture that I built from when I was decorating. There had to be a decision between a travel trailer, an RV, a tiny house, or nothing at all. I did my own research, so these are the basics, if I was you, that you can consider in terms of making your best choice. First, expense. Now, my recommendation in hindsight is go as cheap as possible, because what I've learned is I didn't know what I was doing, so I was really glad I hadn't bought a really expensive RV or kind of thing, because the more money you put out on the front end, the less money you'll probably have to fix whatever mistakes you made along the way. So expense, that is probably number one. I personally would go as cheaply as possible. So second is really is stationary versus mobility. And I ask that because if you're going to be traveling a lot, that's a very different decision than you're traveling to get somewhere and then can move what you want. So tiny house is best for minimum travel with maximum mobility. A recreational vehicle is good if you're going to be traveling a lot and you don't mind moving the RV around. Because remember, for most people, the RV is your house and your car. So every time you want to run to the store or something, you have to take your entire house with you. And third is the travel trailer or the fifth wheel. And the beauty about that is you can unhook and then decide. So the travel trailer is you can unhook your car, and so you have mobility, but you also have the ability to move your house. So for people who want to do, move every couple days, then the RV isn't such a big deal. The other things to consider is a travel trailer does not have to have special car insurance, whereas a recreational vehicle does. So you have to have, even if you pull a car, you have to have special insurance for the recreational vehicle, whereas a car pulling a trailer usually is covered. Second, if your RV breaks down, your house breaks down, where are you going to sleep? The beauty of the two separate is if your car breaks down, you can still sleep in your trailer while your car is getting fixed. The kind of terrain you're going to be traveling on, it's much easier to navigate difficult terrain in a four-wheel drive pulling a trailer than it is for an RV to navigate some of the back roads. So those are some basic things to think about in terms of RV, travel trailer, or tiny home. Stuff. Oh my God, you've heard me talk endlessly about my stuff. And there's no way you're going to know what you can and can't live with until you move on and do it. When I backpack across Europe, I had probably 40 pounds in my backpack, and I was still constantly looking for things to get rid of to lighten the weight. Not that people didn't steal things out of it, but no matter what you do, it's going to feel like too much. And so you have to be incredibly disciplined in a small space about putting your things away, having a place to put them away, and being willing to let go of what you absolutely don't need. And that is something I have not mastered, and I have no brilliant solutions for. The tiny house, I think, would be a nightmare because they're so tightly constructed with, so you can build in more space, but you have to remember that if you don't put everything away, you're going to be in Cluttersville all the time. So your stuff is a really important part of the discussion about what kind of vehicle or house on wheels you want. And the truth is that the newer models have more built-in space because more and more people have stuff and they're living in them. The older the vehicle or the trailer, the less storage space, which is the problem I have. I have like zero storage space. So how much stuff really determines what you will best be using. The next thing to consider is weather. Depending on where you travel, the time of year, the region, the temperature, those kinds of things. Living in a really small space, if you want your sanity, you're going to want to go outside. That's one of the biggest difficulties I have in New Mexico is it's so windy all the time. My experience is that a lot of people in their RVs and travel trailers never went outside. All the shades would be pulled, the air conditioner, heater would be on, and they'd never come outside. But to me, the only way I can live in a really small space is to be able to go outside. So where you're going to go, the more humid and wet a climate is, the more difficult it is to keep things dry. All trailers and RVs leak, even if you can't see it. So the more leakage you have, the more chance you have for mold and environment. So the drier the climate, the better. Not to mention, it is a nightmare being in a metal box when the weather's bad outside. So those are the weather is a huge factor in determining what you would best be suited for. And if you're in a high weather area, I would go tiny house because you can insulate that and heat it much more effectively. So that's something else to think about, what it is that you're seeking to be inside when the weather is bad outside, because the only way I've been able to stay sane is to be outside of the trailer as much as possible. Next is time. How long do you plan on living it? Now, I only planned on being in my travel trailer for 1 year. It's now 5 years later. I did not renovate it for 5 years. I didn't build it up to be a 5-year plus trailer, so I'm paying the price right now with all the leakage and the storage issues. And so when I left in the travel trailer, I left to move. I didn't leave to travel. So I did not pack for a travel lifestyle. I packed to take what I wanted with me. I'm still pulling my stuff around. So how long do you plan on living in your travel trailer or your RV or your tiny house? That's going to be a huge decision in terms of your repair expenses, your longevity. Any kind of travel trailer or RV has usually yearly repairs and constant upkeep. The good news is you can do most of it yourself. The bad news is if you don't do it, you're going to see a much faster degradation than you would in a traditional house. So how long you want to be in it is a really important factor. And I know I've said, don't spend any more money than you have to, but you just never know what's going to happen. Next is distance. And I say that because, one of the things I came up against was my Bronco didn't like to pull my trailer uphill. And so I had to make a lot of travel decisions based around elevation. So in terms of how long you're going to be in it, how high are you going to be going, how low, how much up and down, and how long you want to travel. The more dense the population, the more difficult it is to drive. And so the longer your vehicle is, the more complicated it is, the harder it is to turn around, the harder it is to back up. So you really need to think about where you want to go and how you want to travel. I like the back roads now. So I like all the I don't like to drive on freeways with the vehicles because people are going so fast. You cannot go super fast. You should not go super fast pulling a trailer. It's much more difficult and stressful. So you're going to be on the back roads more. And so number one, you want to know where you're going, why you're going there, and how to turn around. Oh my God. Or back up. Oh, totally a challenge. Best laid plans. The other day I talked about this trailer as not having, these are all my plans I had for designing this trailer, and then finding out that my truck couldn't pull the trailer. So good news, the truck can pull the trailer plus some added weight. But I'm kind of excited about not having anything in here. So it's important to put in and think about everything that you need. It's more important to be flexible and adjust accordingly. The whole point to an adventure is it is an adventure. So I think the last thing I want to talk about is that like I said, I have no idea what made me think about living in a travel trailer. I know that I've inspired other people to do the same thing. I never thought I would like it and would keep it up. So I am a big fan of trying things regardless of how they turn out, because you just never know, and you learn so much about yourself and the experience. So I think the most important thing is, stay within your budget and assume that everything will cost more. But don't be afraid to just try something, because if it doesn't work out, you're always free to try something else. And I wouldn't know what I wanted until I had done this in the first place. And having spent the time in the inadequate trailer, now I know so much more about what I need. And the last thing I'm gonna say about this whole, two things about living on wheels. One is that if you're building anything, the regulations for being on wheels versus the regulations being on the ground, night and day. They haven't figured out how to overly regulate any kind of shelter or building on wheels. So if you don't like regulations, building your house on wheels is so much smarter. And two, this is it, drum roll. There is nothing better than being able to just drive away. I cannot tell you how many crazy experiences I found myself in where I was so happy I could get inside my house with everything I owned and drive away. There is no better feeling in the world than to pack up in 45 minutes and leave everyone and everything behind and start over. So I am a huge fan of living on wheels. It is not for everybody. And that is today's vlog. We'll see you next. Oh, and one more thing. It's awesome for the animals because their life never changes. The structure of their day never changes, which is really important for animals. So no matter where we go, their life is the same and their outside surroundings are the only thing that changes. The trailer has made living with my animals and traveling with my animals so much better. I can't recommend it enough.